Hello and thank you for joining me for another IT Wire and Alex on Tech video. On my left, I have Barry Becker. He's the Vice President of Hybrid Cloud Services at IBM. And on my right, I have Gregory Lotko, who is the General Manager of Mainframw. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having us.
Now, and you can call me Greg, it's fine.
Sure, no worries, thanks. Yeah, let's say that on your card in brackets. Now, we're here at your Built to Change conference in Santa Clara in June 2018. And I thought just start by asking you to tell us what was in the conference today for mainframe users, which for young people who've got no idea what those things are still a hugely important part of the computing ecosystem.
Absolutely. So for young people who don't know what they are, they're the things that when they can go into their bank account or they can get money transferred to them from their parents, it's a mainframe in the back end that's processing it. Or when they use their cell phone and there's actually a bill that's calculated and everything, probably their cell phone provider is doing that. So it's a lot of the stuff that's doing the heavy lifting in the world. But today, at the Built to Change Summit, we were talking about some exciting announcements of what we're doing together with IBM about bringing some of our technologies to the platform, as well as Barry talking about what they're doing in the Z Cloud offering space. So we focused on talking about two of our most recently launched technologies. One of them is Brightside. So for all of you out there who've developed using open source tools and capabilities and didn't know how to develop for the mainframe platform, Brightside is something that's available. You can actually get a free download without support from the CA website. You can actually stitch together things like Git and Jenkins and Gulp and all that type of stuff, and you can develop for mainframe platform and deploy the capabilities. You don't have to know anything about mainframe. It's really cool, really exciting new technology. And then we also talked about mainframe resource intelligence. Again, kind of a capability that'll help the platform, whether or not somebody is mainframe savvy, looking at the tools you're using in the area of economics, thinking about whether or not you're doing zip app offloads or using the technologies as effectively and successfully as you might be able to. And we're going to continue to build this out into the spaces of security, DevOps, and performance management. But we were there as partners, focused on the benefit of our mutual customers. You really don't have a CA mainframe software customer that isn't running on a mainframe. That's where they're running a lot of the software we provide, and customers that want to look at the option of moving to a Z Cloud want to hear that they can continue to use the technologies that they've had from us. But I'll let Barry talk a little bit about his perspective.
Well, just briefly, I mean, mainframes is the last computing platform that IBM has, because you got rid of the PCs a long time ago. But mainframes, tell us about, briefly, I mean, you just explained some of it, but how important are mainframes to the world's computing environment today?
I couldn't state it more, and we shared a little bit with you this morning. 70 to 80% of the world's data runs on or through a mainframe in some form or fashion.
I mean, people might imagine it's going through a data center full of PC-based servers, but clearly not.
No, and you talk about the compute density, you talk about the incredible security and encryption capabilities, and the scalability that the mainframe platforms afford us, and we've listened to those customers. We've really listened to these joint customers. Those of you out there that have really challenged us to provide different consumption models. We absolutely have clients out there that are still aggressively buying the mainframe platform. With our recent early this year announcement of the Z14 platform, we still have clients going through those refreshes and modernizing what they have on-prem or within their data centers. But we've listened and have heard that, look, I want to take the consumption of that mainframe, I want to bring it close to the developer's ecosystem in a very agile and elastic means. And that's resulted in us really ramping up the investment and the scale out of our IBM Cloud Managed Services on Z Systems, or as Greg mentioned, what we call Z Cloud. It's in 18 countries around the world, and every quarter we're expanding it further. We have about 250,000 MIPS under management, servicing about 20 industries worldwide, with about 25% of those being just in the financial services sector alone. So the relevance of the mainframe continues to be at the forefront, and I would say bridging that hybrid cloud conversation, that ecosystem, is bringing together the distributed developer ecosystem and really porting what their wants and expectations are with what the power of the mainframe can bring.
And it's funny, you talked about whether or not folks realize that things were running on the mainframe, and Barry talked about 70-80% of the world's data residing on or running through mainframes. The next thing is people might think, oh, well, that's ever shrinking. Actually, mainframe usage continues to expand. About 78% of customers are saying that they continue to grow their mainframe environment. And over the last 10 years, the capacity, we talk about it as MIPS, the shipped capacity from IBM has grown 3.5x. So it's growing, and more workloads are there.
I mean, people would probably remember seeing in movies these giant computers with tape spinning, But these days must all be using some sort of super duper flash storage. I mean, just for those again who, obviously your customers would know mainframes very well, but for people watching who are not aware, how many PCs worth of computing power is in a single mainframe, as a sort of rough example? Thousands, I suppose.
It's significant, right? It all once again depends on the chipset and the density of that particular mainframe, but it is significant.
And I guess a lot of people would be using multiple mainframes in there together.
Absolutely. I mean, we have clients today that are using their own mainframes for dev tests or maybe production. They're looking for elasticity of a cloud-based mainframe, such as zCloud for other workloads. So there's really a myriad of models of use cases that they can tap into. But it's really interesting. I've got children who are in college, and when you mention the mainframe, when you look at some of the modern versions of our mainframe, not only are they sleek and agile and elastic, but they would definitely stand out within the data center as a very modernized, highly capable piece of infrastructure.
Also, people would imagine them, in the old days, they're as big as a football field. How big is a mainframe in 2018? Does it fit in this room?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
You can fit many of them in this room.
Yeah, a double frame mainframe is probably about 6.5 feet tall, and probably about 4 or 5 feet wide. But there's a new single frame unit that you guys shipped that fits, I think it's 18-inch or 19-inch wide rack. But you mentioned the thing about tape, by the way, and the spinning spool, and that's what people would think about from the 60s. And there is a lot of flash attached to mainframes now, as well as spinning disks. There's a lot of tape out there.
Tape backups, right?
The difference is it's not those big spools. It's actually a cartridge.
That's right. Well, much greater density.
Yes.
And offline storage.
But what's interesting though is a lot of our clients, so as they're moving these workloads into a mainframe cloud, they're not really getting caught up on the density or the capability, because we own that infrastructure on their behalf, and are now extending it in a consumption-based elastic model.
Mainframe as a service.
As a service, by the drink, consumption-based, scales up when you need it. Doing dev tests, maybe a new application development, scale back down. Don't pay for it when you don't need it. So bringing that cloud narrative to the mainframe, which for many people who aren't familiar, the mainframe really birthed the concept of cloud.
Well, they were mentioning earlier today, it was the cloud before we had the cloud.
Absolutely.
Virtualization started there.
Without a doubt.
So where do you imagine the mainframe will be in 10 years, in 2028, if we can stretch that far into the future?
I think still very relevant in the conversation. I think you're going to see the blending of workloads. You talk about the transient nature of workloads within the distributed world from a containerization perspective. I think you're going to see the continual blending and portability of workloads, that it's irrelevant of where it's having to run, and the mainframe from a security perspective, an encryption capability, and that overall elasticity and that compute density will continue to grow, and we're making the investments to continue to grow.
Yeah, so I think it'll not only be surviving, but it'll be thriving. And I think that there's kind of two branches on that. There's the amount of customers in the world that depend on the resiliency, the availability, the stability, and the underlying platform, and the unique things that you can do with software on that platform. But when you add to that some of the investments we're making that we talked about here with Brightside, about opening it up to those that aren't as savvy about the platform, as it becomes more of something in the infrastructure that you can depend on and get that resiliency and stability, but you don't have to know the uniqueness of how to develop to it, that will actually expand its applicability.
Yeah, and I think embracing, operational analytics, our cognitive capabilities, on our IBM services platform with Watson, integrating that with the mainframe, services ecosystem as well, I think is going to continue to bring that relevance to the forefront of modern compute power.
So any final messages for the viewers?
Well, so we focused on talking about Brightside, and we focused on talking about MRI. A lot of
Which
other
is the mainframe.
resource intelligence.
That's it,
So
yeah.
thinking about how to get the most out of your mainframe, make the most out of your investments, and run it optimally and efficiently. But there's a lot of other new investments that are going on in the space. Data content discovery, so that you can look across your estate and figure out where you have PII, personal information, as well as our own mainframe operational intelligence offering, which runs, for the mainframe to kind of help you correlate and see what's going on in the environment and avoid issues before you hit them. And, so that's the really new stuff, as in new products, but we're continuing to make investments in the core technologies that our customers expect and depend on to run their businesses.
And Ben?
Yeah, and look, we're continuing to invest significantly in the mainframe cloud platform, bringing microservices to the table and to the equation, collaborating with CA, and even leveraging our own software suite to really enhance the user experience. The mainframe is incredibly relevant today, and I would encourage everyone out there, from those who have the mainframe, that are those who are looking to take advantage of what the mainframe brings forward, that the capabilities inherent to the mainframe in combination with the software suite that CA has in a as-a-service model is very relevant in 2018 and beyond.
Barry and Greg, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you
Appreciate
for having
it.
us.
Thanks, Alex.
I'm glad to see you guys are on the main game. See you later.